On a desolate planet at the far edge of explored space, a 12-year-old girl named Maia made a discovery that would alter the course of her life. Her parents, scientists devoted to exploration, had taken her across numerous worlds, exposing her to strange ecosystems, bizarre plants, and even stranger creatures. But this encounter would prove different, more profound and terrifying than anything she'd ever experienced. One afternoon, Maia wandered beyond her parents' camp, entranced by the rugged canyons that stretched endlessly around her. She relished the quiet thrill of the alien landscape, the feeling that every step might reveal a hidden mystery. As she moved between the towering rocks, a faint noise reached her, a rumbling, almost like a growl, mingled with a soft whimper. Her skin prickled with a mix of dread and curiosity. Cautiously, she approached the sound. There, in the shadowy depths between two stones, lay a creature unlike any she'd ever seen. Its body was armored in shimmering scales that caught the light, casting a metallic sheen. Folded wings rested at its sides, and in its dark, piercing eyes, she saw something beyond the ferocity she'd expect from a predator. They held a vulnerable sorrow that tugged at her heart. It was a dragon, an alien dragon, with a cruel thorn embedded deep in the corner of its mouth, blood marking where the spike had pierced. Its breaths were shallow, and its body was coiled in pain and fear. Maia's first instinct was to flee. Yet, as she studied the creature's distressed gaze, her fear gave way to compassion. Slowly, she crept closer, her heart thudding as the dragon's intense eyes followed her every movement. She extended a hand, fingers trembling. "Hey there," she whispered, her voice as calm as she could manage. "I won't hurt you. I want to help." The dragon did not recoil, though its gaze shifted between her face and her outstretched hand, as though it was trying to gauge her intentions. Maia's eyes fell on the thorn, a brutal, black spike lodged painfully in the creature's mouth. She had seen nothing like it on this planet. It looked unnatural, almost cruelly deliberate. Steeling herself, she reached out and gently rested her hand against the creature's warm scales. It shuddered, a low growl resonating in its chest, yet it did not pull away. Taking a deep breath, she examined the thorn. It was lodged deeply, its twisted edges caught in the dragon's scales. Maia knew she would need to pull it out in one swift motion. She hesitated, her hands trembling, aware that a single misstep could bring both pain and fury from the creature. Summoning her courage, she whispered, "All right, this might hurt," before firmly gripping the thorn and yanking it free. The dragon roared, its head jerking up and its wings unfurling in a flash of iridescent color. Maia stumbled back, heart pounding, certain for a moment that it would retaliate. But the dragon lowered its head to her, its gaze holding gratitude, and something deeper, a recognition of the compassion she'd shown. It released a low, rumbling purr. Maia dared a small smile, reaching out to touch the place where the thorn had been. Her fingers brushed over a tiny scar, now part of the creature's gleaming scales. The dragon watched her intently, its body now relaxed, breathing calm. "See, that wasn't so bad," she murmured, as if reassuring both herself and the creature. She sat beside it, lost in the beauty of this majestic being, sensing a powerful yet quiet bond growing between them. She had read of dragons in Earth's mythology, but nothing could have prepared her for this encounter with such a magnificent, otherworldly creature. Then, as if in response to her unspoken thoughts, the dragon extended a wing, sweeping it protectively around her. Its head nudged her gently, urging her to climb on its back. Maia hesitated, glancing back in the direction of her camp. But some deep instinct urged her to trust the creature. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, she climbed onto its back, feeling the rough texture of its scales under her hands. The dragon rose to its full height, spreading its massive wings. With one powerful stroke, they lifted off the ground, soaring into the alien sky. Maia clung tightly as they climbed higher, the landscape below shrinking into a patchwork of jagged cliffs and winding canyons. The wind whipped at her face, carrying the sense of minerals and distant storms. She looked down, exhilarated, watching the landscape rush by as they flew with a graceful ease through towering rock formations and across vast, shimmering plains. They flew for what felt like hours, gliding over luminous rivers and fields of bioluminescent plants that pulsed in rhythmic waves, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Finally, they descended into a secluded valley between two mountains, the dragon landing softly and allowing her to dismount. The valley was like nothing she had seen before, filled with strange plants, some with vines that twisted and flowers that glowed with soft, golden light. As she explored, she noticed markings etched into the rocks, like symbols from an ancient language. These symbols seemed to pulse with a faint light, as if alive, as if trying to communicate. "What is this place?" Maia murmured, not expecting an answer. To her surprise, the dragon stepped forward and pressed its snout to the symbols. They glowed brighter, casting a warm light over the dragon's face. In that moment, images filled her mind, visions of a world long past, of dragons soaring across crystalline skies, of beings that looked human but were not. She saw flashes of ancient alliances, of creatures much like this dragon, standing alongside explorers from distant worlds. And then she saw it, the Thorn, appearing not just as a mere object but as a weapon, a tool of control used by shadowy figures seeking to subjugate powerful creatures like the dragon. The Thorn was more than just a source of pain. It symbolized oppression and bondage. Maia's heart raced as the vision faded. She turned to the dragon, whispering, "They tried to control you." The dragon met her gaze, and in its eyes, she felt an understanding pass between them, a bond forged in shared defiance and resilience. By removing the Thorn, she had done more than relieve the dragon's pain. She had freed it from a legacy of subjugation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Maia sat quietly beside her newfound companion, knowing that their journey had only just begun. They would explore more mysteries, uncover more truths, and perhaps even heal wounds that went back generations. As the first stars appeared in the alien sky, Maia looked up, her gaze filled with determination, ready to face whatever awaited them. Then a sharp crack echoed across the valley, snapping her out of her reverie. Glancing up, she saw figures descending from the cliffs, armored, faceless, and efficient in their movements. She knew instantly they were human, but not like her. These were soldiers, perhaps sent to retrieve the dragon. The leader approached, his metallic voice cold. "Stand back, child. That creature belongs to the Unity Corps. Unauthorized interaction with classified species carries consequences." Maia stood frozen, her heart pounding as the soldiers closed in. The leader's visor reflected her face, but there was no humanity behind it, only the chilling glint of control. Behind her, the dragon shifted, its wings unfolding ever so slightly, ready to defend her. The air grew thick with tension, both Maia and the dragon attuned to each other's fear and defiance. "What are you doing?" Maia cried, her voice rising as she watched the dragon writhe. "Restoring order," the soldier replied coldly. "The control device embedded in that Thorn you foolishly removed is the only reason these creatures can be contained." Contained. The word sent a wave of rage through Maia. They didn't care about the dragon's suffering or its freedom. To them, it was a trophy, a specimen to be controlled and displayed. The dragon's head dropped as it tried to resist the invisible hold of the device, but its massive body was shuddering, weakened by whatever force the soldiers were using. Maia glanced between the soldiers and the dragon, desperate for a way to break their hold. Her eyes fell on the soldier's device. It pulsed in his hand, sending waves of energy toward the dragon, energy that seemed to tighten around it like invisible shackles. She didn't know how it worked, but she knew that if she could just get it. Without a second thought, Maia threw herself forward, adrenaline and anger drowning out her fear. She knocked into the soldier, catching him off guard, and his device clattered to the ground. Scrambling, she grabbed it and spun around, clutching it to her chest. "What do you think you're doing?" The leader's voice dropped, the threat unmistakable. Maia barely hesitated. She pointed the device toward the soldiers and pressed the same button he had used. Nothing happened at first, but then the device hummed and sent out a powerful wave that forced the soldiers back, disrupting the control they held over the dragon. Freed from the unseen restraints, the dragon let out a bellowing roar. It rose to its full height, towering over the soldiers as they stumbled back in shock. The air crackled with energy, and Maia felt a surge of triumph mingled with fear. For a tense moment, the soldiers froze, as if uncertain whether to proceed. Then the leader snarled, "Retreat!" One by one, they backed away, their figures melting into the shadows of the cliffs, but Maia knew they'd return. Unity Corps wouldn't simply abandon their prize. She had bought them time, but not freedom. Not yet. The dragon turned its gaze to Maia, its eyes glowing with an intelligence and gratitude that went beyond words. Slowly, it lowered its head to her level, and Maia dared to reach out, her fingers brushing against the scales on its snout. There was a silent understanding between them, one born of trust and defiance. But the urgency of their situation pressed upon her. "We have to go," she whispered, glancing around. The valley might have offered temporary safety, but it wouldn't keep them hidden forever. The Unity Corps soldiers knew where to find them now. The dragon's eyes met hers, and it lowered one of its wings, creating a space for her to climb onto its back. With a nod of gratitude, she clambered onto the rough expanse of scales, settling in just as the dragon lifted into the sky. They flew high above the alien landscape, soaring over canyons and peaks, each gust of wind carrying them farther from the soldiers and deeper into the unknown. As they ascended, Maia realized just how vast this world was. Miles of uncharted terrain sprawled beneath them, from mountains that glittered with strange minerals to forests of trees with glowing, crystalline leaves. She wondered if anyone had ever truly explored these lands, or if they together were the first. After hours of flying, they descended into a sheltered valley nestled between towering cliffs. Here, they'd be safe from watchful eyes, at least for a while. The dragon landed with a grace that seemed impossible for its size, allowing her to slide down to the ground. Exhausted but determined, Maia turned to the dragon, running a hand over its scales. "I don't know how to protect you from them," she murmured. "They'll come after us again. I don't know how long we can keep running." The dragon lowered its head, resting it beside her, as though acknowledging her fears. And then, as before, a rush of images filled her mind. Not like the memories she'd seen earlier, but something clearer, more deliberate. She saw herself standing in a place unlike any other she had seen, a cavern filled with sparkling stones and strange, intricate carvings. A voice, her own voice, but distant, as if coming from the future, whispered words that seemed to resonate with the cavern walls. "This is where it begins, and this is where it ends." Maia's eyes widened as the vision faded. She didn't understand the words, but she knew what she had seen was real. The dragon, with its knowing gaze, had somehow shown her a path forward. "What is this place?" she asked softly, as if the dragon could answer. The dragon gazed at her for a long moment, then extended a wing, motioning toward a distant mountain range beyond the valley. Maia took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. Whatever waited for them in that mysterious cavern was something the dragon believed in, a place that might offer them answers, or even sanctuary. And so, as dawn's first light cast an otherworldly glow over the valley, Maia prepared to embark on her next journey, her fear tempered by a fierce determination. They would find this cavern, unlock its mysteries, and, she hoped, finally break the chains that Unity Corps had forced upon her newfound friend. With the dragon by her side, Maia began the trek toward the distant mountains, her mind racing with questions and a quiet, growing hope. Together, they would uncover the secrets hidden within this planet, fight the forces that sought to oppress, and maybe, just maybe, rewrite the fate of dragons forever. The journey to the mountains took days, each step taking Maia and the dragon deeper into alien terrain that grew more surreal with every mile. As they walked, The dragon would occasionally pause to study its surroundings with an intensity that suggested memory. Maia couldn't shake the feeling that this world was as much a part of the dragon's past as it was of its present, holding secrets that it alone understood. At night, they rested beneath the strange, bioluminescent flora that bathed their camp in a soft, pulsing light. Maia would lean against the dragon's warm scales, finding comfort in its steady breathing and occasional soft, rumbling purrs. They'd formed a bond deeper than she'd ever thought possible, one rooted in shared danger, trust, and the mystery that bound them together. Finally, one afternoon, they reached the mountain range from Maia's vision. The cliffs rose around them, jagged and steep, like teeth gnashing at the sky. Hidden between two peaks lay the entrance to the cavern, the same cavern she had seen in her mind's eye. She felt a shiver as she stood before it, the stones and strange carvings almost seeming to watch her. The dragon moved forward, nudging her as if to say, "This is the way." With a deep breath, Maia stepped inside, the dragon close behind her. Inside, the cavern stretched into vast, echoing halls, the air thick with the scent of earth and minerals. The stone walls glistened, embedded with tiny, sparkling crystals that cast faint reflections across the shadowed expanse. Strange carvings covered the walls, shapes and symbols that were both familiar and utterly alien, telling stories in a language she couldn't understand. The further they ventured, the more Maia sensed an energy in the air, a subtle hum that grew louder as they walked. It was as if the cavern itself was alive, a sentient entity sharing a story only it knew. Then, they reached a vast chamber at the heart of the cavern, where a series of intricate carvings filled the walls. In the middle of the room stood a stone altar, carved with more symbols, and above it, the ceiling opened to reveal a small patch of sky. Sunlight streamed down in a single, concentrated beam that bathed the room in golden light. Maia felt a shiver. This was the place. The dragon settled beside her, curling its tail around them both as if to shield them from what was to come. Its eyes watched her, and Maia could almost feel it urging her to the altar. Slowly, Maia approached the altar, running her fingers over its surface. The symbol seemed to pulse beneath her touch, as if acknowledging her presence. Suddenly, a familiar warmth surged through her, and the world around her dissolved into darkness. Maia blinked, disoriented, finding herself in a vision. This time it was different, not fragmented, but clear. She stood in the same cavern, but it was no longer abandoned. Instead, it was filled with creatures like the dragon, great, winged beings of various shapes and colors. Some bore scales of deep emerald, others of fiery red and shimmering gold. Each dragon was surrounded by figures, vaguely human but ethereal, their forms shifting and glimmering like stardust. In the vision, she saw the dragons and these beings communicating, not with words but through shared memories and emotions. They were allies, united in purpose, an ancient civilization built on trust and respect. She felt their unity, their shared dreams. Together, they were protectors, guardians of this world and others, wielding knowledge beyond anything humanity had ever discovered. Then, she saw a shadow pass over them, strange, faceless beings, humanoid yet cold, their armor dark and unyielding. These invaders, these shadows, had come to conquer, bringing devices that could bind the dragons to their will. Maia felt the dragons' pain, their resistance, their ultimate defeat as they were forced into a dormant state, their memories fractured, their spirits weakened. But the vision wasn't done. She saw her dragon, her friend, as one of the last survivors, escaping with fragments of memory and purpose. It had waited, alone, in hidden corners of the universe, searching for someone who could help it break the chains imposed by the shadows. Maia felt the weight of the dragon's hope, its trust in her, and the fear that it would be forever bound by those who saw it as nothing more than a prize. As the vision faded, Maia found herself back in the chamber, the faint hum of energy all around her. She looked up at the dragon, eyes brimming with understanding. I understand now," she whispered. They bound your people, stole your freedom. The dragon's gaze met hers, and for a brief, flickering moment, Maia thought she could hear a voice in her mind. Not words, but feelings, images that translated to a single thought. Help us remember who we were. Swallowing back the overwhelming emotions, Maia turned her gaze to the altar. The final carvings on its surface showed a map, a route through the mountains to a hidden sanctuary, marked with ancient symbols. She traced the route with her fingers, feeling the energy that pulsed within it. The sanctuary wasn't just a place. It was the last stronghold, a place of healing, where the dragons could restore their memories, where they could become whole again. She turned to the dragon. This sanctuary, it's where we can free you, where we can make sure Unity Core never controls your kind again. The dragon nodded slowly, its eyes reflecting an ancient sorrow and a spark of hope. Just as she committed the map to memory, a distant sound echoed through the cavern. Footsteps, multiple, and drawing closer. Maia's heart raced. Unity Core. They must have tracked them here. The dragon growled low, and Maia glanced at it, a silent understanding passing between them. They couldn't afford to be captured now, not with what they'd discovered. Come on, she whispered urgently, clutching a small, smooth stone from the altar, a symbol of the dragons, a piece of their legacy. We need to get out of here. We'll make it to the sanctuary. I promise. As they slipped into the shadows of the cavern, Maia could feel the dragon's steady presence beside her, a silent strength that bolstered her resolve. They would reach the sanctuary, they would free the dragons, and together, they would face whatever battles lay ahead. Because now, they weren't just running for freedom. They were fighting for a legacy, one that had waited eons to be reclaimed. Maia and the dragon navigated the winding passages of the cavern, their hearts pounding in rhythm with the distant footsteps that echoed ominously behind them. The glow of the bioluminescent crystals flickered in the shadows, casting eerie shapes on the walls as they quickened their pace. The further they moved from the altar, the more the sense of urgency pressed upon them. Which way? Maia whispered, glancing back to gauge how far behind their pursuers were. The sound of clinking armor and low voices grew louder, filling the air with a palpable tension. The dragon paused, its nostrils flaring as it caught the scent of fresh air, its instincts guiding them. It turned, gesturing with its head toward a narrow passage to the right. Maia nodded, trusting the creature that had become her ally in the face of fear. As they slipped into the narrow passage, Maia's mind raced. They can't catch us. We can't let them. The thought was a mantra that fueled her legs, urging her to run faster, to escape the fate that loomed over them. The dragon moved with a grace that belied its size, every muscle tense and ready to spring into action if necessary. Emerging into another chamber, they found a massive opening that revealed the mountains beyond. Sunlight flooded the space, illuminating the stunning vistas of alien landscapes. But the beauty was marred by the sense of dread that clawed at Maia's heart. They could hear the soldiers now, shouting commands, their footsteps pounding behind them. We have to find the sanctuary, Maia urged, scanning the terrain for any signs of the path shown in her vision. The dragon looked to her, and she could feel its determination mirroring her own. Together, they were stronger, and together they could face whatever threat loomed. With a deep breath, they set off across the rocky ground, weaving through clusters of strange vegetation and boulders that stood like ancient sentinels. The sanctuary was out there. She could feel it, the promise of healing and hope for the dragon's future. As they pushed further, the sounds of pursuit faded momentarily, but the weight of impending danger lingered. Maia glanced back, her heart in her throat. What if they catch us? Keep moving, the dragon urged silently, its gaze unwavering. Maia took strength from it, sprinting onward as they climbed a series of rugged inclines that led to the hidden valley. After what felt like an eternity of scrambling through the rocky terrain, they crested a ridge and beheld the sanctuary below, a secluded valley surrounded by towering cliffs. Lush greenery covered the ground, dotted with flowers that shimmered in the sunlight. In the center stood a colossal ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching toward the sky, radiating an energy that felt welcoming and alive. There it is, Maia breathed, hope igniting within her. But the moment was short-lived as a shout echoed from behind them. "They're coming!" Maia turned to see a squadron of soldiers emerging from the rocks, their faces obscured by dark helmets. Panic surged through her, and she felt the dragon tense beside her, ready to defend her with every ounce of its strength. "Go!" she shouted, pushing the dragon forward as they raced toward the sanctuary. "We have to reach the tree." The dragon leaped, its powerful wings unfurling, propelling them into the air. For a moment, they soared, the wind rushing past them as they glided over the valley. Maia felt a thrill of exhilaration mixed with fear. They were so close, yet the soldiers below shouted orders, their figures growing smaller as the dragon gained altitude. But then, a sharp crack echoed through the air. A beam of energy shot past them, narrowly missing the dragon's wing. The soldiers had weapons capable of striking from a distance, and their aim was true. "Faster!" Maia urged, the urgency of their situation crashing over her like a wave. The dragon banked sharply, spiraling down toward the tree. As they approached the sanctuary, Maia could see the markings on the tree glowing softly, responding to their presence. They landed with a thud, and Maia dismounted quickly, her heart racing. "We have to protect it," she cried, glancing around to spot the encroaching soldiers. The dragon spread its wings, creating a barrier between Maia and the oncoming threat. The soldiers, now close enough for her to see their expressions, wore masks of determination, the cold calculation in their eyes revealing their intent. They were here to claim the sanctuary and the dragon as their own. "Stand down," a voice boomed from the front of the soldiers, a figure stepping forward, tall and armored, his helmet glinting in the sunlight. "The creature is property of the Unity Corps. You cannot defend it." Maia stood her ground, adrenaline coursing through her. "It's not a thing to own. You don't understand what you're trying to destroy." Her voice rang out, fierce and unyielding. The soldiers' eyes narrowed. "You are outnumbered. Surrender the creature, and we might spare you." "Never!" Maia shouted, feeling the dragon's powerful presence beside her, a reassurance that she wasn't alone. The dragon emitted a low growl, flames flickering at the edges of its maw, ready to defend. "Then you will both perish," the soldier replied coldly, gesturing for the soldiers to advance. But before they could make their move, Maia's hand instinctively found the smooth stone she had taken from the altar. Holding it tightly, she focused on the energy pulsing from the tree. "I won't let you take it," she shouted, raising the stone high. A brilliant light erupted from the tree, enveloping Maia and the dragon in a radiant glow. The soldiers halted, confusion spreading across their faces as the energy surged around them. Maia could feel the ancient power of the sanctuary resonating with her determination, amplifying it into something unstoppable. Together, she called to the dragon, and as if responding to her command, the dragon roared, unleashing a torrent of fire into the air, a fiery shield that merged with the light from the tree. The blast of energy exploded outward, illuminating the valley in a breathtaking display of color. The soldiers shielded their eyes as the force pushed them back, the very ground shaking beneath them. "Run!" Maia urged the dragon, and without hesitation, they darted toward the heart of the sanctuary. The tree pulsed with power, drawing them closer as the energy enveloped them, protecting them from the onslaught of the soldiers. In that moment, the world around them transformed. The sanctuary revealed itself in full. Tendrils of light spiraling from the ancient tree, wrapping around the dragon and Maia, pulling them into a cocoon of energy. They stood in the heart of a shimmering vortex, the sanctuary's magic awakening something deep within the dragon. Its scales glowed brightly, and Maia felt a connection surge between them, a bond that transcended time and space. "Remember who you are," Maia whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. In a brilliant flash, memories surged into the dragon's mind, a torrent of experiences, knowledge, and emotions flooding back. the ancient ties of its ancestors awakened. And in that instant, Maia knew they were no longer just fleeing from the shadows. They were part of a legacy, a fight for freedom that stretched across galaxies. With newfound power, the dragon spread its wings wide, channeling the energy from the sanctuary. The vortex intensified, and with a deafening roar, the dragon unleashed a wave of fire and light, washing over the soldiers, engulfing them in a blaze that burned away their weapons and armor. As the light faded, the soldiers found themselves standing in the center of the sanctuary, their helmets and weapons gone, confusion and disbelief etched on their faces. They were no longer a threat. Breathless, Maia stood beside the dragon, which now towered above her, a beacon of strength and resilience. "We did it," she whispered, awe and gratitude coursing through her. The soldiers looked around, realizing they were in the heart of the sanctuary, a place they had sought to conquer but could never truly understand. The ancient power of the dragons was alive in this place, a force that couldn't be contained. The leader of the soldiers stepped forward, confusion giving way to recognition. We were wrong," he said, his voice unsteady. "This creature, it's not property. It's a guardian." Maia met his gaze, her heart pounding. "Yes, and it's time you understand that." With the dragon beside her, she felt the weight of history, the burden of the past lifting. Together, they had defied the odds, standing against oppression not just for the dragon, but for all those who had been silenced. In that moment, the sanctuary thrummed with life, the tree pulsing with energy that reached out to all. Maia felt the connection deepen, the sanctuary welcoming not just her, but those who chose to stand with them. They had broken the chains, and in doing so, forged a new alliance. "From this day forward, we will protect this place," she declared, her voice steady and strong. "We will ensure that no one can ever take away the freedom of the dragons again." The soldiers nodded, and one by one, they stepped forward, placing their hands against the tree, embracing the sanctuary's power. Maia and the dragon stood side by side, the bond between them stronger than ever. Together, they had awakened not just the memories of the dragons, but a future filled with hope, a future where freedom was not just a dream, but a reality they would fight to protect. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues across the valley, Maia felt a profound sense of peace. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. And in that victory, she knew they would write a new story, a story of unity, strength, and the enduring spirit of the dragons that would echo through the ages.